Hello and welcome to the One Shot Show where GMs go to level up. I'm Patty, I'm joined as always by Matt, and we have another special super speedy. We've got our minutes. You've given us 2 minutes per question.
2 minutes per question, 1 minute ahead.
And we've got a whole bunch of questions gifted to us from various sectors of fan base.
Yep, it's another fan Q&A. So if you support us on Patreon, you have had the opportunity to submit questions to this. And obviously, if you want to submit questions to this, then go ahead and support us on Patreon. It begets itself. But as you say, hot to trot, no Xanax, no beta blockers, fully adrenalized, everything 20% faster. What's our first question?
Question 1. What GM assistance tools do you use? I wonder what they meant by this initially. Assistance tools, where do you go? Where does that go in your head?
I see it meaning quite a few things, right? Because the one that immediately stuck out to me was a note taker or sort of there's the campaign tracker type software that might include things like notes, notable NPCs, maps, and I know that there are certain softwares that sort of have it as an all-in-one package. So you can click on that town and it shows you the notes you have on that town and some of the important people there. You might have laid out timelines of events and things like that. History, background, lore. Funnily enough, I don't actually use a whole lot.
I use a massive pages document per campaign.
I barely even use notes these days. Just with the sort of structure that I go for, which I know is a bit of a disappointing answer, because there are so many great tools, and what's even more annoying is I can't remember any of them off the top of my head to possibly shout out. I would argue Maps is maybe the one that I can think of. I've got a few. I've mentioned this before on the show. I've got a few people who I support on Patreon who do Maps, and they'll often do a couple a month. And that's a really great way for me to just I'll just see what they've released and see if any kind of line up to things I've got coming up. Or I might just see something that's really cool and go, I want to figure out a set piece that's going to fit.
So I went somewhere completely different. I mean, I was like, GM assistance tools. I went back to basics. I don't use a GM screen. I use my laptop. I have my dice tray. I use for all of my stuff, we have boxes and boxes of gemstones and bits and bobs is sort of my approach to GM assistance.
If you've got a bunch of miniatures lying around.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. So it's really eclectic what we use. But I do use one of the things I do use is something awesome called tabletop audio, which is which is an awesome drop-in. You can design soundscapes within it, and it's so easy. And they have a lot of pre-made incredible stuff. But I really enjoy tabletop audio.
Yeah, sometimes Sirenscape is another big one if you want to be adding a little bit more audio to your games.
Okay, question number 2 is a big one.
Okay,
it's a doozy.
Go.
Who's on your Mount Rushmore of villains? I think that's 4 villains.
Yeah, okay, if it has to be 4 exactly, this is a little bit tough, because I saw this question come in, and unfortunately one of the ones that I wanted to... okay, I'm going to try and rapid fire through this.
Go.
One of my 4 is each villain from the Dark Knight trilogy. And the reason for that is thematic. Each villain... reflects back on Batman differently. Now that's really interesting to me. It's a little bit harder in a group game versus the sort of solo, antagonist versus protagonist that you get in those movies. But the idea that villains should be dark mirrors held up to the party. Legend of Korra does something similar. Each season's villain is a sort of represents a different ideal that is opposed to Korra's own viewpoints. They are a reflection of her, when she is more authoritarian. Now she comes up against an authoritarian villain and has to sort of adjust her own approach. I think that's a really cool approach. Villain number 2, Anton Chigurh. How do you pronounce that? From No Country for Old Men.
Oh, fantastic.
Because... he's a force of nature, is how he feels. And if you want that kind of villain that feels ominous, like I said, feels more like a force of nature, but is still represented by a person doing actions, that's a really great mold to look to.
Put a bookmark in that when we get to... That's a villain type that I want to talk about when we get to that sometime.
Yes.
That's 2.
Yep, okay. Thanos. Thanos because of how you can structure a story backwards from a villain like Thanos who is trying to assemble the MacGuffin, and you are in a race to assemble the MacGuffin or prevent him from assembling the MacGuffin. And then the beautiful thing that is a great lesson for D&D is actually the villain wins. He succeeds in assembling the MacGuffin. And then, Endgame is actually a fresh campaign that starts from the fail point of Infinity War.
Yeah.
So it's also, he carries a lot of really great lessons in your games for how to have the villain win and have that not be something that grinds everything to a halt. I'll circle back on number 4. Do you have a few?
I got mine. So one of them for me is Carla from Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, who is an invisible villain. A villain who is so frighteningly omnipresent, but barely appears in the story, only like through flashback. But I love the way that Carla is like introduced in like book, but then also incredibly in this one monologue in the film version that Gary Oldman delivers. But I love that villain. Do you know the actor Peter Mullen? He's a Scottish actor.
Might know him if I saw him, but
he's in everything from like Train Spotting through to like like he's just like everything that he plays. Like he plays some of the most terrifying like small town villains.
Interesting.
He's just it's absolutely mortifying. Anything with Peter Mullen in it, I've drawn on him so many times for my people. Similar, I thought initially when you were saying Anton Chigurh, I thought you were about to go where I was going to go, which was is Hannibal Lecter, but I was also going Hannibal's my favorite. Delightful villain. Incredible power. And then my last one is in the Southern Reach trilogy, which is what Annihilation is based on. The whatever it is incredibly delivered in those books, especially in book 2. There are 2 sequences where there are like near encounters with this huge esoteric power that truly scared me more than any book has ever scared me before. I was in bed and Sam was like, "Are you okay? You've stopped breathing." And it was because of a sequence in that book. But they're my big 4.
I'm going to say my 4th one. This is real left field. I cannot remember the name of the character, but it's Sam Rockwell's character in 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri.
Oh, yeah, beautiful.
Because he's just genuinely not a good person, fully not a good person. However, he is portrayed with a total unashamed humanity that you cannot help but be sympathetic to. And part of that is Sam Rockwell's performance, obviously. But it's a really great way. I think sometimes in our tabletop games, it's really hard to come up with villains that aren't just a big evil bastard.
Yeah.
It's hard to actually have a genuinely well-motivated, super nuanced villain that could go either way, right? The resolution to that story is he kind of comes around. And it's this really beautiful arc that he gets to have. And I feel like villains, especially ones that are representations of like real-life, everyday villains, like horrible managers, corrupt police officers, etc., aren't given the humanity treatment as what that character is, and I think it's a beautiful case study for that.
So cool to see that in the game.
That was a long one.
That was
let's
a very
crack
long
on.
one. Do you have any other interests that actively you draw from, other interests that you draw from for inspiration for your games?
So when this one came through, I think there's 2 ways that it can be taken. But last time we already got asked about the most recent piece of media that influenced us.
That's right.
So I'm going to say that media is a given.
Yeah, I
right?
think so.
Like video games, books, movies, whatever. That's a given.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm taking inspiration from that. I take a lot of inspiration from just like other interests. You ever fall down a Wikipedia hole?
Yeah.
Things like that. Like, I'm always trying to learn interesting things about like weather systems and stuff like that. I've in the past in some of my written stuff, I did a whole deep dive on how different seasons might impact the kinds of adventures you can have.
Oh, yeah.
And that led me down the path of doing a whole bunch of research on like tropical climates that have very different seasonality and how, if you're in a tropical environment, that seasonality might affect your campaigns in this way. If there's a regular monsoon season, then you're not going to be traveling overland so much, et cetera, et cetera. Just any like interest topic that I can deep dive on, I will often pull inspiration from. There's, always that thing at the back of my mind that's spotting how I might be able to use it in my games.
Yes. Yeah. I echo that, and I also go travel. Like I love, anytime I sort of get out of my own city and I deliberately go like sightseeing or driving or like going on long walks, like I walked the Camino de Santiago, and I was just came out of that with a notes page that was chocker with stuff that I was just like, I want to fold all of this back into my art, which I suppose that same thing. You just go out, you get inspiration from the real, be that in research or like out in the world, and then you bring back and fold it in. Super cool. Are there any systems that we've tried and we didn't like? I've tried a bunch of skirmish games, and I just can't get into them because I think I need the RP, I've realized.
Right, like skirmish games in like a...
I played some Frosthaven and some Gloomhaven.
Okay, yep. Or like...
Would we call those skirmish games?
Like ish.
Yeah.
Like the RPG elements to that are light. They're more in terms of the progression rather than the role play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, it was too much like into like board game night and D&D night, but I wasn't really getting the kick that I get out of either of them. And I have lots of friends who love like everything, all the whole process that goes into that.
I really enjoyed I enjoyed Gloomhaven and Frosthaven, but like my take on those games specifically is they are very sophisticated for a board game and very rudimentary for a video game.
Yeah.
Like video game dungeon crawlers are well in advance of what Gloomhaven can deliver you. But what those games often can't deliver for you is the very tactile feel of sitting around with your mates. And because it's a big chunky game, like we'd set aside a full Saturday to sit down and play 2 or 3 scenarios, and it was a social thing for us as well.
Yeah.
With the progression just kind of being this exciting bonus to keep it going. In terms of RPG systems that I bounced off, the Alien system.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a mate who's got a similar story about this.
Yeah, and I think I've mentioned it before, and I think there's just a really unfortunate fundamental problem with that system, and that is that it needs to be able to facilitate playing through the movie Alien and playing through the movie Aliens, and both are very different. Both are very different tonally, very different mechanically, so you need to have rules in there for like how you could take a mech and shoot down an alien, but if what you're trying to do is the slow burn monster on the spaceship style story of the first Alien movie, then it feels weird to have all these mechanics in there for how you could go and fight it directly. And I just think there is a fundamental unsolvable tension that exists within that system because it's trying to do a few too many things. I've heard of Mothership as a more satisfying replacement. I unfortunately bounced off it too for slightly different reasons. And I actually think it's a really, really hard concept to capture, unfortunately, in the context of a tabletop RPG. And I think a lot of it comes down to the genre fluency of the players.
Yeah.
I think that isn't... it's an impossible problem. We've talked about this before in our bonus episodes. An impossible problem that I don't think any system will ever truly be able to solve.
I get it. Well, on a similar note, I'm pulling down to a different one here. How do you guys feel about solo play or duo play? Because I've got a similar... I think it's because the reason I pick up on that one is it's really similar to my answer to the one I gave before, and it sounds a little bit like... I'll be interested to see where you go with this. But it's like, it's not why I'm tuning into an RPG, is the idea of solo play or duo play games. I know that they're really... I feel like most modules that come out now, almost Kickstarters that I'm reading, are like they put a big emphasis on going like, we're making a version that like there are chapters that will make this accessible for solo or duo play. That sometimes I'm kind of like, how are you doing that?
Yeah.
But it just doesn't feel like what I'm in the hobby for, despite the fact that it's on the rise.
I'm gonna throw down a real spicy take here because I fully respect the desire for such a thing to exist in the same way that, you know, solo board games, having a solo mode for board games is a big thing, and I think it's a perfectly reasonable thing that should exist. In the world of board games, I think not every board game can have a solo mode or should have a solo mode. In the world of tabletop RPGs, look, again, I get the desire for that to be a product. I think this actually goes back to the impossible problem. In that bonus episode, and for goodness sake, back us on Patreon to listen to it because we really got to dig deep into this fascinating topic. We talked about the fact that Dungeons and Dragons right now is experiencing a weird version of it where there are a lot of people who like Dungeons and Dragons and spend a lot of time thinking about it and interacting on forums and building characters, and they never actually play it because they don't have people that they play with. But it's not hard to go find people to play with. And I think if you're the kind of person who is looking at a solo RPG and going, yep, that sounds great, I genuinely think 9 out of 10 of those people have a weird parasocial relationship with RPGs, and what they've missed is that the fun isn't actually the RPG. That's just a very sophisticated roll and write game. The fun is the interaction, the tabletop, the people around the table, the storytelling that is emergent from that.
Yeah.
Look, if you're a busy parent with a toddler and you don't have time for games like you used to, I respect that that can help fill a void in your life in the same way that gluten-free bread is an okay substitute for regular bread. But the best compliment you can ever give gluten-free bread is you almost can't tell. That's how I feel about solo RPGs. I think they are for a certain kind of loser.
Oh, dearie me. I was going to come up with a pivot and go like the itch that stretching is just like video gaming or something for me.
Yeah.
So, that's the loser vibe that like if I'm in that mode, I want to play a video game.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do. I want to end with the spicy one. We've got 14 minutes. Do we want to do the big one and then finish at 16? What do we want to do?
Yeah,
okay, let's keep going. Who are the other D&D commentators, YouTubers, voices who have shaped your GMing journey?
I think, like a lot of people, I've listened to a fair whack of Matt Colville. I think he what he does for me more than anything, he seldom teaches me anything new, but he has at times formalized something that I've sort of had a bit of an understanding of, but haven't had a structure or a mental model to, which is really useful. The other one that I've been going for quite a bit lately is a bloke called World Builder Bob.
Ah, yeah.
Quite like World Builder Bob, cool tone, interesting guy. And often just expresses neat concepts. I would say, 3 out of every 10 of his videos I get quite a lot out of, and the other 7 just aren't for me.
Yeah. I was thinking about this as well, because I was going, like, for shaping GMing, I would go, like, Colville fills such an incredible niche there at a time when everybody was, like, people were tuning into Critical Role, and there were a couple of other teacher videos out there, but Colville was really going, like, this is about how to actually run in a way that was so impactful for, like, a huge generation of players.
I think asterisks on Matt Colville, because we may revisit him in another one of our episodes shortly.
Okay, fantastic. And I realized that a lot of the people that I engage with are people who aren't really, they're not speaking to GMing, but they're introducing me to parts of the hobby or news about the hobby that I'm hadn't been exposed to. I really like Wintry Wyvern, who does like, who's doing like a big lot, when I was looking at other systems over the last couple of years, lovely resource, lovely tone in this setting. Like, I think of people like Nerd Immersion, who was so big at the time of the OGL and is now sort of doing previewy things. Probably got a bit overexposed at that time.
Maybe.
But yeah, that's where I go. And so, like, I don't know if there's anyone who's current for me who I'm going to for, like, who's giving me the GM inspo.
Yeah,
but I'd be
they sort
interested
of
to see what
pop up in
happens.
my feed alongside like video essays. And
Yeah, nice.
We've got a couple more. Let's see if we can smash them out. I know this is getting a little long.
How do you, Matt, run your comms to organize games? One of the great banes of the system.
Discord server.
Okay.
Discord server for me
Yeah.
because I can have multiple channels. I can set things by role. It makes it easy to ping people to schedule times. I can pin messages that have useful resources, and we've got an active chat that can be going, which also helps do that thing of like wanting to talk about the game in the downtime between the game. A bunch of my players spent the better part of today arguing about anime.
Funny.
Today.
Within the Discord. That's cool. I now pretty much exclusively organize my games at the end of the last game. We'll book 2 in. Like, we'll all talk, we'll all get out our calendars. I think that comes, I work with a lot of freelancers and who are just, like, who can't do a regular game. We just can't. So we'll book, sometimes we'll book like the next 4 and then we'll do it there, or we'll just book the next one and then a backup one. But I've been finding that's just with the people that I play with, that's the best and only way, is to really in the room pin people down and go like, what are we going to do? How are we going to do it?
Gotcha. What's our last question?
Last question is, what is the worst encounter we've ever run?
4-hour puzzle.
Oh, what do you mean? It's just
I saw
so
this
huge.
one and I thought about it. I designed a shit puzzle. I designed a
the
bad
worst.
puzzle that required too many logical leaps that my players simply couldn't reasonably make, and it took them 4 hours to solve. This is at a time
That's
when
the bits.
we'd play for about 6 to 7 hours with like a dinner break in the middle. We were at that age. 4-hour puzzle. Massive disaster. And I learned a lot of very important things about puzzle design as a result of that.
Mine was not realizing how tired my players were. Like, I wasn't I was too tuned into the adventure, and it had been a really fucking great session, but I should have called it before going into what was ostensibly the final encounter of the piece. And as a result, it was a short form thing. It was like 6 or 7 episodes.
Meant to be this heightened moment of triumph is sort of like, oh, okay. Can we
Yeah,
go home
and it
now?
was, and I remember about halfway through looking up and seeing everyone going like, fucked. I just like I don't know how to. Yeah, and I was also tired. But yeah, I really wish I hadn't pushed through. I wish that I'd called it.
See, now I'm maybe thinking I wish we hadn't tried to push through those last few questions because, good God, this has been a long episode. But thank you so much for sticking with us and tuning in. We love getting these questions from you. And if you support us on Patreon, then you can submit questions and even vote on which questions we cover in these episodes. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you in the next one. If you're enjoying listening to The One Shot Show, why not support us on Patreon? Go to patreon.com/OneShotShow, where you'll be able to find video versions of our episodes, long-form bonus episodes that we release every single month, access to our community Discord server. You can pose questions for our special Q&A episodes, and if you're back at the higher tiers, you can even vote on what questions we cover in our show. Check it out.